Make me stay late for not being 15 minutes early? I'll show you how early I can be. I work at a casino as a dealer. We have a first-in first-out way of scheduling dealers. So if you start at 7 p.m., you get to leave before people that started at 8 p.m. when they are able to close tables down and send you home. Pretty normal and straightforward. If more than one person starts at the same time, then who gets the option to leave first is assigned on a rotating basis. So if you have the first option one week, you will be second the following, the third after that, then back to one. So one afternoon, I was reporting to work with two other dealers, all set to start at the same time. I was looking forward to a short evening, as I was the first option and I had plans after work. I arrived 10 minutes before my shift, and noticed none of the dealers who was starting at my start time was already dealing. They, the dealer, must have been in the EDR and the pencil needed a dealer to start right away. I confirmed that they had started 15 minutes before their scheduled time, and they were the third option. Fast forward 6 hours, and we had tables we could start closing. I'm stoked to get out of there, when I look over and see the dealer that started early leaving before me. I pointed out that I was supposed to be leaving before her, and she gave me a shit-eating grin and said, "Well, I started before you, so I have the first option." And then she just walked off all smug. I was super pissed and said something to the supervisor. He shrugged me off and said it's policy. First to start leaves first. Okay, game on. I knew this coworker had kids, and had to wait for her mom to come over to babysit before she could leave for work, so she wasn't always early for her shift. I have no kids or obligations, so I started showing up 2 hours before my shift and just chilling in the EDR. I would let the supervisor know I was there in case they needed me to start early, which they always did, because they would not refuse to open a table for lack of staff knowing I was on property and available to work. 3 weeks of this, and I had held the first option on every shift I worked. The dealer who was all smug about starting early was getting frustrated and angry at me. Having to stay super late every night was wearing her down. "It would be nice to get off before close just once," she said to me once as I was leaving early yet again. I told her I was just following policy, and she was welcome to show up early to make sure she was always first out. 2 more weeks and many complaints to the boss later, the policy was changed. Now, in order to jump option numbers, you have to be called in over an hour before your scheduled time. 15 minutes wasn't gonna cut it anymore if you wanted to leave early. I hope that it was worth it for her staying until near close for over a month over that 15 minutes. I am petty and I have a lot of free time. Edit to answer some questions I'm seeing and give some clarification. Yes, I showed up 2 hours early for my shift. However, I was paid for nearly all of that extra time, as I was always asked to start work early since I was on property and available. I actually worked more hours and made more money during this time than I had previously. The difference in time leaving work was several hours. First option usually leaves around 9 p.m. to 10 p.m., while second and third options leave around 2 a.m. to 3 a.m. depending on business. My property is KYO, so the volume of hours is less important to us. Not really an excuse, but this coworker is not easy to get along with. She has had run-ins with just about every other dealer at some point. She is the type to quote policy when it works in her favor, and disparage the same policy the second it works against her. If she had something important to do the evening in question, or needed to leave because of childcare or whatever, I would have happily passed my option to her. My plans were not as important as something like childcare. It was the underhanded way she went about getting herself out early combined with her snarky remark and shit-eating grin that made me want revenge. We do not use an EO list because it actually created similar issues. People would come by several hours before their shift assigned, go home, then come back. People got upset, so management said you can't sign the EO more than 1 hour before your shift started, so nearly the entire crew would be an hour early and bicker over it. Then it was changed to you can't sign the EO until you are clocked in at your scheduled time and enter the pit. This resulted in people showing up an hour early and camping out in line near the time clock like it was Black Friday. So yeah, no more EO list. I feel this is malicious compliance because she was very eager to point out to me that the option number shifting was policy, and the supervisor said she was correct. I was just following the policy as she did, just to a more severe degree.